Hello again and welcome back to the channel. Today I am very happy to speak a little bit more about the speaking section of the TOEFL. Specifically today I am going to discuss the second speaking question. This question is often referred to as the personal opinion question. I will begin the video by talking a little bit about the styles of questions that appear on the test. I will continue by giving you a template that you can use to answer those questions, and I will conclude by providing a sample answer and discussing some of the little things that you can do to increase your score. So with that said, let's get started by talking about the styles of questions that pop up in the second speaking question. Now, there are two main styles of questions used by ETS when they design this part of the test. The first question style is one that I refer to as the pure preference style. This is also the most commonly used one in my experience. Questions like this are phrased as these two examples show. First of all, do you prefer to eat meals in restaurants or in your own home? Or it might look like this. Some students prefer to study online, while others prefer to take classes on campus. Which do you prefer and why? I should also note that all of the type 2 questions will end with the same sentence, which is use details and examples to explain your opinion. Now, the first thing you probably notice about this style is that it looks very similar to the independent writing question. And that's true. There is a lot of similarity here. So keep that in mind as you're practicing for the writing question. You might be able to use some of the same reasons and ideas and examples that you come up with. There is overlap. The second question style is the agree-disagree style. They go something like this. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Sometimes it is better to not tell the truth to our friends. Or like this. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? It should be mandatory for children to attend school until they are 18 years old. Once again, these look very similar to the agree-disagree questions that come up in the writing section. Remember that as you're practicing your essays. Before I move on to the template, there's a couple points I want to mention. First of all, these questions often relate to academic life, workplace life, or growing up. That's not a promise, that's not a guarantee, but those are the broad subject areas that usually come up in the speaking to question. Secondly, I should mention that no matter which style you get, you don't have to change the way you answer it. I'm going to give you a template that works for both styles. And even if ETS is trying a new style, or even if I've made a mistake here in the video, the template will still work. So have confidence that you know how to answer it, and have confidence that you know how the question will be designed. You should not be surprised on test day. All right, moving along to the actual answer. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I love structure, I love templates. I find that a good answer template will give test takers a lot of confidence. It takes away the element of surprise, and you go into the test center feeling good, feeling confident, feeling like you know how to use English well. The template I want you to use for the second speaking question goes like this. It starts with a main point. You have a little bit of room for experimentation in this first sentence. You could say, I agree with the idea that. You could say, I prefer, or I think it is better too. Whatever feels most natural. I agree with the idea that students should attend school until they are 18. I prefer to eat my meals at restaurants rather than at home. I think it is better to always be truthful with friends. One clear sentence that states your main point. After that is the transition. Something like, I feel this way for 2 reasons. I've actually marked this as optional because if you are a, let's say, slow speaker, you can take it out and it won't really hurt your score. I would rather that you include the transition, but again, if you're lower level, if you speak a bit slowly, just delete it. It's okay. Next, your first reason. The first reason in support of your main point. First, state it. And then, to be more specific, give me another sentence or two. And then your second reason. Second and for example. You can end with a conclusion. I've also marked this as optional. Most of my students should not have a conclusion. I find that talking about the reasons is more effective. However, if you have some time to kill at the end of your answer, you can include a short conclusion. I'd rather that you not have any time to kill. I'd rather that your answer just finish with the second reason. But hey, if you've got a few seconds, give me a conclusion. I want to stress again that the template works no matter what the question is. It's broad enough, it's flexible enough that it should work with every prompt. Let's put the template into use now with a sample answer. This is the question from earlier in the video. Some students prefer to study online, while others prefer to take classes on campus. Which do you prefer and why? Use details and examples to support your opinion. Here's my answer. You're probably saying, holy crap, that's really long. Yeah, that's true. I understand that this is a long answer. This is meant to represent a perfect 30-point answer. You're probably not going to be as good as me. I'm a native speaker and I cheated. But this represents an ideal. This represents a perfect model which you can follow. It also represents a demonstration of the templates that I've just taught you. Again, you're not going to be as good as this, but you should strive to be as good as this. Try to be as good as this. Try to use the same model, and you'll get a good score. I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about some of the more specific things I did that I think will help your score. But first, I am going to read the answer, and I'm going to time it to see if I can get it done in 45 seconds. First, I will take a drink of water, and I will catch my breath, and let's see what I can do. I prefer to study in person instead of online. I feel this way for 2 main reasons. First of all, attending lectures gives me a chance to form beneficial relationships with other students. To be specific, my classmates have the same professional goals as me, and talking directly to them creates a social network that will come in handy after my graduation. Secondly, I am often confused about issues related to my field, but when I am in a classroom, I can easily ask my teacher to clarify them. For example, I was bewildered by a formula in my calculus seminar last semester, but when I lingered after class for a few moments, the professor quickly cleared up my confusion. Consequently, I scored well on my next test. That came out to 44 seconds. So again, you might not speak as fast as me, so you can shorten it if necessary. You could probably take off the very last sentence here, and you could, as I said, eliminate the transition. But overall, this is the formula. This is the structure I want you to follow. Now let's talk about some of the specific little things I did which I think will benefit your score. First of all, I followed the templates, right? I prefer, and then I gave my main point. I feel this way for two main reasons. That's the same transitional sentence from earlier in the video. First of all, and to be specific. That's what I taught you in the template. Secondly, and for example. That's what I taught you in the template. And there's no conclusion here because I didn't need one. I used all my time for the two reasons. Now, note these little parts that I have underlined. I don't want to turn this into a grammar lesson, but basically these are conjunctions that I've used to create compound sentences. I want you to use conjunctions like and, but, so, for, yet, nor. This is a technique that I also teach in my videos about the essays. Compound sentences formed using conjunctions like and, but, and so will give your answer a bit more grammatical complexity, a little more grammatical sophistication, but in an easy to do way. If you study grammar just a little bit, you should be able to use but correctly. I'm often confused about issues related to my field, but I can ask my teacher for help. I was bewildered by a formula, but the professor cleared up my confusion. They have the same goals as me, and talking directly to them creates a social network. Again, this isn't a grammar lesson, but this is a technique which you should study, read a bit about, and try to use in your answers. It's hard to use these on the fly, right? I understand that. But as you're practicing, try using them, and it will become more natural. Another thing that I've underlined is consequently. This is a transitional phrase. It's also referred to as a discourse phrase, I guess. These phrases include things like in addition, moreover, however, therefore, thus, on the other hand. These are little phrases which ETS is looking for in your answers. I also teach my students to use these in the independent writing section of the test. And I want you to try using one or two in your speaking answer. I haven't included them in the template because I think that's too restrictive. But you should try including some in your answers as you practice. Once again, it's really hard to do this on the fly, but if you do it in your practice answers, it will become more natural. Another thing you should notice is that I've used italics here a few times. I've used this to indicate moments when I try to vary the vocabulary. So instead of repeating class again, I use lecture. I use seminar. I didn't want to say class 3 times, right? I didn't want to say attending classes gives me a chance. In my calculus class. I didn't want to say again attending classes 3 times, so I used different words. That is another good way to increase your score. I didn't want to repeat relationships, so I used social network. I didn't want to repeat confused, so I used bewildered. These little techniques, they help. I hate to sound like a broken record. I know this is hard to do on the fly, and this is actually something which is hard to do in general, but keep it in mind. Try your best to avoid repeating words too often. That's, again, advice that I give when I'm teaching students about writing, as well as when I'm teaching students about speaking. All right, I think that just about covers speaking type 2. But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I try to respond to those every single day. If you want more of this stuff, of course, you should subscribe to the channel. I'm putting up new videos all the time. Or you can visit my main website, which is TOEFLresources.com. If you visit the site, you will find guides to every section of the test, and you could also sign up for my speaking or writing evaluation services, which I think are a very good way to hone your skills before taking the test. All right, thanks again for watching all the way to the end of the video. It always means a lot to me when students do that, and I will see you next time. Take care then. Goodbye.